I'm 75 years old, and I need to tell you something while I still can. For most of my life, I measured myself by how I looked in other people's eyes. Not just whether they liked me, whether they were impressed, whether I mattered to them in a way that made me feel solid and real. I didn't know that's what I was doing, not at the time. I thought I was just working hard, being responsible, making something of myself. But the truth is, I was performing every single day. I grew up without much. My father worked in a factory. My mother cleaned houses.
There was love, but there was also silence around the dinner table when bills came. I remember the weight of that silence, how it made me feel small. So I decided early on that I would be different. I would be someone people noticed, someone who didn't have to sit in that kind of silence. I went to college on a scholarship. First in my family, I worked 2 jobs while I studied. I graduated with honors, and when I walked across that stage, I felt like I'd finally proved something, not just to my parents, to everyone who ever doubted me, to myself. After that, I kept going. I got a good job, then a better one. I bought a house in the neighborhood where people had lawns and 2-car garages. I wore nice clothes. I made sure my car was clean. I joined committees. I volunteered for things I didn't care about because the right people would see me doing it, and it worked. People knew my name. They respected me. When I walked into a room, I could feel it, that shift in attention, that acknowledgement. I thought that's what success was supposed to feel like. I got married when I was 28. Her name was Linda. She was kind and steady, and she loved me in a way I didn't fully understand. She didn't need me to perform, but I kept performing anyway. I'd come home late from work dinners, from events, from things I told myself were important. She'd be reading in bed, and she'd look up and smile like she was just glad I was home, and I'd feel this strange discomfort, like her contentment was too simple, like it wasn't enough. I wanted more validation, more proof that I mattered. We had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I loved them. I did. But I also saw them as extensions of what I was building. I wanted them to be impressive, too. Good grades, sports, awards, things I could mention casually in conversation. I missed a lot of their games, a lot of their school plays, not because I had to, because I was at dinners with people whose approval felt more urgent, more important in that moment. Linda would say things like, "They just want you there." And I'd say, I know, next time. There was always a next time coming. That's what I told myself. The years went by faster than I expected. My son went to college. My daughter got married. I was at the wedding, of course. I gave a speech. People said it was wonderful. But I barely knew her husband. I'd met him 3 times. Linda retired before I did. She wanted to travel, see things, spend time together. But I kept working. I was up for a promotion, a big one. Vice president of the division. I'd been working toward it for years. I told her, once I get this, we'll have all the time in the world. She said, okay. I got the promotion. There was a ceremony, a plaque, a dinner with executives who shook my hand and told me I deserved it. I gave a speech about hard work and perseverance. People clapped. I drove home that night, and I remember sitting in the driveway for a long time before going inside, just sitting there in the dark. I felt nothing, not pride, not satisfaction, just this hollow, quiet nothing. I went inside. Linda was asleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time we'd really talked. Not about schedules or bills, about anything real. I wanted to wake her up and tell her that I'd finally made it, and it didn't feel like anything. But I didn't. I told myself it was just exhaustion, that it would feel different in the morning. It didn't. I kept working, kept performing, but something had cracked open, and I couldn't close it. A year later, Linda got sick. It started small. Fatigue, some pain. She didn't want to make a fuss. By the time we caught it, the cancer was everywhere. They gave her 6 months. She lived for 4. I took time off work. Finally, I sat with her every day. We talked more in those 4 months than we had in years. And I realized how much I'd missed, how much of her I didn't know anymore because I'd been too busy being seen by people who didn't actually matter. She was kind about it. She didn't blame me. That almost made it worse. One night, near the end, she said, "You know what I'll miss most? Just sitting with you when you're actually here." I started to cry. I told her I was sorry, that I'd wasted so much time. She held my hand and said, "It's okay. You're here now." But it wasn't okay, because now was all we had left, and it wasn't enough. She died on a Tuesday morning. I was holding her hand. The funeral was big. Lots of people, lots of kind words. My bosses came, my colleagues, people I'd worked so hard to impress. And I stood there thinking, none of you really knew her, and none of you really know me. After she died, the house was so quiet. My kids called. They visited when they could, but they had their own lives, their own families, and I couldn't blame them. I'd taught them, without meaning to, that being busy was more important than being present. I kept working for another year, but my heart wasn't in it. I retired at 71. They threw me a party, another plaque, more speeches. I went home and put it in a drawer. I'm 75 now. I spent a lot of time alone. I see my kids a few times a year. My grandkids don't really know me. I'm just the old man who shows up at holidays and asks surface-level questions. I have money. I have a nice house. I have a wall of plaques and awards in my office that no one looks at. And I have all this time. Finally. But the person I wanted to spend it with is gone. I can't tell you the exact moment I should have stopped. There wasn't one clear choice. It was 1,000 small ones. 1,000 times I chose to be impressive instead of present. 1,000 times I chose the performance over the person, and I kept choosing it because I thought there would be more time. I thought I could have both, the approval and the love, the success and the connection. But you can't. Not really. Because the people who actually love you don't need you to be impressive. They just need you to be there. And the people you're trying to impress, they don't love you. They barely know you. And when you're gone, they'll forget you faster than you think. I know that now. I wish I'd known it at 30, at 40, at 50. I wish I'd stayed home more. I wish I'd cared less about what people thought and more about what my wife needed. What my kids needed? I wish I'd understood that the applause fades, the titles fade, the approval fades. But the moments you miss, those are gone forever. I can't get them back. I can't sit with Linda again. I can't go to my son's soccer games. I can't watch my daughter grow up. I have my memories, but they're thin because I wasn't really there for most of them. I was somewhere else, in my head, thinking about the next thing, the next achievement, the next person to impress.
If you're listening to this, and you're still young enough to choose differently, I want you to know something. The people who love you are not impressed by your resume. They're not impressed by your title or your car or your house. They just want you. And one day, you're going to be old like me, sitting alone, looking back. And you're going to wish you'd spent less time trying to matter to strangers and more time mattering to the people who actually knew your name. I can't go back, but you still can. Don't wait as long as I did.